The Gervonta Davis hate, it looks corny, man. Ego thoughts, let's talk about it. Gervonta Davis looks like he's going to be fighting in Houston. It's about to go down. It's about to be another movie. And the haters can't stand it. And let me tell you, the haters are looking really corny right now. And I want to talk about a couple things. Ego thoughts. I told you I'm going back to the basics on the channel. I'm giving you what you want. So with Gervonta Davis fighting Lamont Roach, it's understandable. I've already broken this down in past videos. Make sure you check out those videos that I put out. The basic premise is Gervonta Davis is on his third or fourth option that didn't work out for obvious reasons. Gervonta Davis is a major threat. Lomachenko said he doesn't want to fight for the remainder of the year because he's not in the mood. What fighter, prize fighter, says that? Allegedly, according to the Gervonta Davis haters, Lomachenko has been the guy that's supposed to beat Tank Davis. So one would think that, hey, you get this opportunity, you're in deep negotiations with him, maybe you take it and solidify your position by beating him. However, it sounds good and it's easier said than done. Gervonta Davis, with a few punches, brutally, and I do mean brutally, knocked out an undefeated southpaw like Frank Martin. So the bottom line is you don't have a bunch of guys chomping at the bit to step up, especially under Tank Davis's terms, like where he's the A side, he gets to pick the date, things like that. So Lomachenko, he bowed out. Shakur Stevenson, let's talk about him. A lot of idiots, either they're playing dumb or they're playing crazy. It's kind of like a court case where somebody's being tried for a 187, right? And the person really did it and they have no actual defense. So they try to play and plead insanity. So they got to play crazy. They're not actually crazy. The crime was premeditated. You knew what you were doing when you walked into that house. But since you're trying to save your own ass or not get the death penalty, something like that, you want to play crazy. All of a sudden you turn crazy. That's boxing fans in a nutshell. They want to play dumb. They want to play crazy so they could plead insanity. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to yield new results. And that's what we're seeing here. Why are we talking about Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson at this point? It's well documented that Shakur Stevenson is injured. I have several videos. If you guys subscribe, you will be tapped in with all that goes on in this beautiful sport of boxing. Shakur is hurt. He had to pull out of his fight with Joe Cordina. Speaking of Joe Cordina, this was a guy coming off of a loss, a knockout loss like that from a lighter division. So that makes sense why people didn't like that fight. You're fighting a domestic level fighter who is coming off of a loss from a lighter division, and it's a knockout loss. People are trying to retaliate and say, oh, but Tank's pulling up Lamont Roach. Again, let's not play these games because I'm not really here for it. This is his fourth option or so. I've already went over it. Other guys weren't available. And Shakur Stevenson was fighting a guy off a layoff. It was actually announced. And old media had no problem with the fight. But Tank, to fight a champion coming off a lighter division, like when he fought Hector Luis Garcia, people are losing their minds. Shakur is injured, and he stated that he's supposed to fight Zepeda in February 2025. Again, why are we still talking about Tank and Shakur Stevenson? How is this a realistic possibility? Why did Shakur sign to Eddie Hearn if he really wanted to fight Tank? Because Eddie Hearn can't provide him a Tank fight. Tank Davis blasted Eddie Hearn about a year ago or so, where Eddie Hearn was in his DMs like, let's talk business. I heard you about to become a free agent. And then Gervonta Davis put the screenshot of the DM conversation and said no, and stuck with Al Heyman. So what pull do you think that Eddie Hearn has in terms of having any jurisdiction over a guy like Gervonta Davis to get that done. So if he doesn't have any pull to get that done against an A side like Tank Davis, then signing to him, you don't really want to fight because you're locked in for a 2-fight deal. And I seen Shakur was trying to combat this because people were bringing this up on Twitter, and I'll probably make a separate video. If you want me to make a separate video about that, in the comment section, put Shakur Stevenson Twitter. If enough people put that catchphrase, Shakur Stevenson Twitter, I'll make the video about it. So as I've illustrated, Gervonta Davis, he happens to be the man. He's the face of boxing alongside Canelo Alvarez, who kind of is on his way out. And speaking of Canelo Alvarez, he just fought Berlanga, a guy that really didn't deserve the fight, and nobody complained. And he did good numbers, it sounds like, on pay-per-view and the live gate. Boxing is a business, and when you're the A side, things tend to happen on your terms. Like me, I've been a long-standing YouTuber for over 10 years. I've earned my stripes. You think somebody's gonna come to my channel and dictate how I do business with this many years in? Well, if you believe that, then you got another thing coming. So I'm happy Tank is fighting Lamont Roach. And the double standards are egregious. You have all these people playing games like, why is he not fighting Lomachenko? I just went over that. Why is he not fighting Shakur Stevenson? I just went over that. How is he supposed to fight a man who's injured, who is on the sidelines in other people's sparring sessions with a cast on? Please explain how he's supposed to fight Shakur Stevenson. Why didn't you just send Shakur the contract? Why would you send a contract to somebody with a cast on their arm? You guys are idiots. They're talking about Inoue has another fight against Goodman or somebody. Nobody wants to see that. But Inoue, who's ranked number 1 or 2 on different people on old media's list, they don't care who Inoue fights. But Tank is big business here in America where it actually counts. And at the end of the day, all of his moves are scrutinized. So that shows you who's moving the needle, and it's Gervonta Davis. The other thing, the double standards is crazy. Tank Davis, if he fights Lamont Roach, which is, again, they had to exhaust several other options for bigger fights that did not work to get to Lamont Roach, and it still gives them activity. These bums, content creators, bummy content creators, bummy fans, they're trying to play games. When Jaron Ennis signed to Eddie Hearn, I had questions about that partnership. Like, how is this going to work? Eddie has nobody signed to him that makes a really big American fight for Jaron Ennis outside of maybe Conor Benn, and I don't think that's a big fight after he failed the PED test, right? So that being said, Conor Benn wasn't really a big name, so I had questions. Guess what old media told me? They said, oh, no bother, no worry, mate. It doesn't matter, mate. Boots is going to remain active. He's going to be active with Eddie Hearn, and it's better than being on the sideline for a special talent. How come the same people aren't saying the same thing for Gervonta Davis, who fought Frank Martin in, I want to say June, but he fought him in the summer, and he's already coming back months later to fight again a second time. Now, all of a sudden, they don't care about activity. These people are frauds. They are fake, and I'm going to keep exposing it. You said Jaron Ennis will be active despite not having the fights that really catapult him, like David Avocado or guys like his next opponent. A rematch with Karen Chukadasian, right? These aren't good fights. These aren't big fights. That's why you have to stuff it in Philly and hope that his hometown shows up and shows out, because that's about the only place you can sell that fight in America, right? And people didn't care. They said this is good business because it's activity. When Tank is staying active, like, hey, there's no reason, if people don't want to fight me, there's no reason to not at least be active. Now all of a sudden it's a problem, even though he's fighting a champion and a guy who had 2 fights with him in the amateurs, which some of you guys don't know. So I rest my case.